The night is breaking itself apart. Wind claws through the trees, snapping branches like ribs. Rain lashes the forest until the air itself feels bruised. And through that storm, she runs. Lyra's breath comes ragged, torn from her chest in bursts that taste of iron and ash. Bare feet slap mud and roots. Each step is pain, but stopping would mean dying. Behind her, hounds bay through the thunder. Somewhere beyond the noise, a woman's cold voice rides the wind, ordering the hunt to continue. Lightning flares. For an instant the world is silver, every drop of rain frozen mid-air, every tree glistening like glass. It shows the blood trailing down her leg, the thin linen dress clinging to her skin, and the branded scars that snake over her shoulder. The Luna's mark. Lyra stumbles, catches herself on a tree trunk slick with moss. Her palm slips, smears red down the bark. Her lungs burn, begging for rest, but the scent of the pack is closing in. She can almost hear the click of jaws behind her, feel the hunger in their breath. She whispers a prayer to no one. Please, not yet. The forest answers with silence, heavy and strange. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Then, crack. A branch snaps too close. Lyra hurls herself forward again, pushing through a tangle of thorns. They tear at her arms, but she doesn't feel it anymore. Her body moves on instinct, guided by fear and something deeper, a pulse that doesn't belong to any ordinary wolf. Under her skin, heat stirs. It spreads from the scar at her shoulder down her spine, bright and unbearable. Her heart pounds faster, faster, until the world seems to pulse with it. The rain starts to hiss where it hits her. Lyra gasps, stumbling into a clearing. Steam rises from her skin. For a heartbeat, the stormlight bends around her, and she feels it, that impossible spark, the thing the Luna tried to burn out of her. Power. Then it's gone. She drops to her knees, clutching at the earth as if it can hold her together. The river is ahead, black and wide, snarling with white foam. She crawls toward it, dragging her wounded leg. Behind her, the pack's voices weave through the thunder, closer now, organized, relentless. She reaches the edge and looks into the current. Moonlight fractures across the surface, turning the water into a mirror that won't quite reflect her face. She sees only flickers, silver eyes that aren't hers, a shadow that moves when she doesn't. Her chest tightens. "What are you?" she whispers to that reflection. The river answers with a surge of wind that smells like iron and pine and ancient smoke. Lyra closes her eyes. The world spins. Somewhere deep inside her chest, something whispers back, "Not prey." The first hound bursts into the clearing, its eyes glow amber, its teeth bared. She grabs a branch, swings weakly, misses. The beast lunges. Thunder explodes, closer this time, deeper, like the growl of something older than the storm. The hound stops mid-leap, whimpering. Its head jerks toward the trees behind her. Every hair on Lyra's arms rises. The forest is no longer empty. Something huge moves between the trunks, silent but undeniable. The pack scatters. Even the hound backs away, whining. Lyra can't move. She's trembling, drenched, half blind, but she feels that presence, like heat against her skin. A voice, low, rough, almost human, threads through the rain. "Keep running, and you'll never stop." She tries to look toward the sound, but the darkness folds around her. The ground tilts. Her strength drains with the last of the light. As she falls beside the river, her fingers brush the water, and it shimmers, glowing faintly silver where her blood touches. Steam coils upward, wrapping her in mist. The storm begins to quiet. The narrator's tone softens, almost a whisper now. "If you've ever carried scars no one believed, stay here, breathe with her, because sometimes the ones who run are the ones the world fears to follow." The hounds retreat into the distance. The rain eases to a hush. Lyra lies still, breath shallow, surrounded by the echo of her heartbeat and the silver flicker beneath the river's skin. In that fragile silence, the air shifts again, heavier, charged, Somewhere behind her, footsteps crunch through the wet leaves, slow, certain, a predator's pace. And then the forest speaks his name without words. The air holds its breath. Every drop of rain seems to hang, waiting. Lyra forces her eyes open. The forest has changed. What was chaos a moment ago is now a cathedral of silence. Dark trunks rising like pillars, mist swirling in slow spirals around her. The river murmurs beside her, silver where her blood touched it. Footsteps again, closer, measured, heavy with authority. She senses rather than sees the creature that owns that tread. Her pulse stutters. Fear should make her crawl away, but something deeper roots her in place. The figure moves through the mist, massive shoulders, dark hair plastered to his skin by rain. The scent reaches her first, wild cedar smoke, iron, and something that thrums like thunder held in a heartbeat. He steps into the faint light, eyes burning gold. For a moment she thinks she's still dreaming. No one stands that tall and moves that quiet unless the forest itself allows it. Water slides down the curve of his jaw, catching in the scar at his throat. The mark of command. He doesn't speak at once. His gaze sweeps over her. Mud, blood, torn dress, the luna's mark seared into her shoulder. His expression darkens, not with disgust, but with something raw, older, recognition. Lyra tries to crawl backward. The movement sends pain lancing through her leg. The man, no, the alpha, drops to a crouch, hand out, palm open. "Don't!" she rasps. The word dissolves in the rain. He freezes. Even that single syllable seems to catch him off guard. He looks at his own hand as if surprised to find it extended. Slowly, he lowers it. The storm grumbles overhead, a reminder that the world is still breaking apart around them. He studies her face again. "You're hurt." His voice is rough, deep, the sound of gravel rolled by water. Lyra laughs once, hoarse, bitter. Not the first time. His jaw tightens. The golden flare in his eyes deepens, edges flickering to black. For a breath she thinks he might shift, but he doesn't. He reins it in with visible effort, breath hissing between his teeth. The forest listens. She pushes herself upright, shaking. "If you're here to take me back, do it. I'm done running." A muscle jumps in his cheek. "I'm not here for her." Her heart stumbles. "Then why?" Lightning answers before he does, carving his silhouette in white. When the dark rushes back, he says low, "Because I was the fool who let her touch you." The sentence hits like another strike. Lyra sways. She doesn't understand what he means, only that the air between them feels different now, charged not by fear but by something fierce and dangerous. The alpha rises to his full height. Rain runs down the line of his throat. "You need to move. They'll circle back." "I can't." "You can," he says. And there's no command in it, only certainty, as if he already knows the shape of her will. He steps forward, bends, and before she can protest, lifts her. The motion draws a gasp from her, pain and shock in one. His arms are impossibly warm, steady as stone. The river's mist curls around them like a cloak. Behind, the forest begins to wake again. Distant howls, the rhythm of pursuit returning. Lyra's head lolls against his shoulder. The scent of him, smoke and pine, cuts through the ache. She wants to hate him, but the exhaustion is too deep. Sometimes rescue doesn't come with wings or promises. Sometimes it comes wearing the face of everything you once feared. He carries her along the river's edge. The storm thins to a cold drizzle. In the distance, wolves answer one another in uneasy calls. They've lost her trail. Lyra forces her eyes open again. The alpha's expression is unreadable now, focused, grim. But his hand around her shoulder is careful, fingers never brushing the scar that marks her as property. Somewhere in the distance, a howl splits the night, higher, crueler. The luna's voice inside her army. The alpha pauses, tilts his head slightly, listening, his eyes narrow. "She's close," Lyra whispers. He looks down at her, the corner of his mouth twitching, not a smile but an acknowledgement of the truth between them. Then we keep moving. He steps into the deeper forest, mist closing behind them like a curtain. And that's how the hunted left the river that night, with an alpha at her side, a secret in her blood, and the storm whispering of debts the moon would one day demand. The rain softens to a whisper, but the forest keeps breathing around them, alive, watchful. Every branch seems to bow toward the man walking ahead, as if the wild itself recognizes its ruler. Lyra's bare feet drag through mud, her pulse a ragged echo of the thunder fading behind them. She should fear him, the way he moves like a storm given human shape. Yet something deep inside hums in answer to his presence. She feels it, that pull beneath her ribs, ancient and forbidden. The alpha says nothing. His cloak hangs heavy with rain, shoulders broad enough to block the wind that claws at her. Once, when she stumbles, his hand catches her arm. Strong, calloused, steady. His touch burns, but not from pain. It's the heat of a bond that shouldn't exist. She tries to speak, but her voice cracks. "Why did you help me?" He glances back, eyes glinting amber in the dim light. "Because she didn't deserve to hurt you." She doesn't ask who she is. She already knows. The Luna, the woman Lyra served, the one whose silver rings left scars on her wrists. They push through a curtain of mist until the forest opens to a shallow cave carved into stone. The alpha gestures her inside. The air smells of moss and wet earth, but it's shelter. And for the first time that night, warmth begins to return to her skin. "Sit," he murmurs. The command is gentle, but her body obeys instinctively. He kneels, tears a strip from his cloak, and binds the wound on her arm with surprising care. Every movement feels too intimate, too deliberate. When his fingers brush her skin, her wolf stirs. The part of her she spent years trying to cage. The part that the Luna called a curse. He studies her in silence. "You were running from more than the storm." Lyra meets his gaze. She wants to deny it, to build the walls back up. But something about those eyes, full of authority and unspoken pain, unravels her defenses. "She'll come for me," she whispers. "She always does." He nods once as though he already expected that answer. "Then she'll find I'm not easy prey." The words settle between them like an oath. Outside, the rain slows to a cold drizzle. Inside, the fire he builds flickers to life, and the shadows on the cave walls begin to dance. Lyra watches him move, the careful control, the quiet power. It's not human. It's not meant to be. And yet, beneath the savage grace, she senses something wounded, familiar. "Who are you?" she finally asks. He doesn't look up from the fire. "Someone who should have found you sooner." The flames flare, reflecting in his eyes, the colour of molten gold. For a heartbeat, she feels like the world has stopped spinning. But then a sound slices through the calm. A distant howl, low and mournful, echoing from the trees. Lyra stiffens. That voice belongs to the Luna's hunters. The alpha's head tilts slightly, listening. "They're close," he says. "Rest while you can." She shakes her head. "If they catch me." "They won't." His tone leaves no room for argument. "You're under my protection now." Those words, simple, dangerous, impossible, land like a promise she doesn't know how to believe. The firelight trembles over the cave walls, and Lyra closes her eyes. For the first time in years, sleep edges close enough to touch. But even as exhaustion pulls her under, she can still feel the weight of his gaze, a tether between two broken souls, tightening with every breath. And somewhere in the dark beyond the cave, the storm gathers again, whispering of destiny. Morning steals across the forest in ribbons of silver mist, dew beads on every blade of grass, glittering like fallen stars. Somewhere a raven calls, sharp and lonely. Lyra wakes to warmth, the faint crackle of dying embers, the scent of pine smoke, and the rhythm of a heartbeat that isn't hers. For a moment, she forgets where she is, until the memory returns like a wave. The chase, the blood, the alpha. He sits near the cave mouth, watching the forest as though it speaks a language only he understands. The first light spills across his profile, proud, carved from shadow and command. His presence fills the space, quiet but absolute. When she stirs, his head turns slightly. You made it through the night. Lyra pushes herself up, flinching at the pull of her bandaged arm. I didn't thank you. You were half conscious. I'll accept it now. His voice holds the faintest edge of humour, roughened by exhaustion. It softens the ferocity she'd seen before, just enough for her to glimpse the man beneath the alpha. She studies him carefully. You knew my name last night. How? He doesn't look away from the trees. Because I've heard it whispered for years. The girl the Luna kept hidden. The servant who healed faster than she should. The one with silver in her blood. Lyra's pulse stutters. She folds her arms, trying to hide the faint shimmer that creeps under her skin whenever fear tightens its grip. They called it a curse. They were wrong. He glances back. It's a gift, but one that draws enemies. She laughs once, hollow. That's an elegant way to say everyone wants me dead. Not everyone. The weight in his tone silences her. Outside, the forest stirs, the distant shuffle of paws in wet undergrowth. He rises in a single fluid motion. We move. Where? Someplace safer than this. He steps into the clearing first, scanning the tree line. Lyra follows, her body aching but alive. The air feels charged, humming with unseen energy. Each sound, dripping leaves, snapping twigs, seems to echo too loudly. They travel wordlessly through the underbrush. The alpha's stride is measured, his senses sharpened to every shift of the wind. When she falls behind, he slows without looking back, as though her heartbeat guides him. At the crest of a hill, the trees part to reveal a valley bathed in dawn light, a hidden river winding through ancient stones marked with sigils. Power thrums there, faint but undeniable. Lyra feels it before she understands it. This place, what is it? He answers softly, almost reverently. Where the first bond was forged, before alphas, before packs, before control. She steps closer to the edge, eyes wide. The water below gleams like liquid moonlight. For a heartbeat, she senses voices beneath the surface, whispers calling her by name. The alpha watches her carefully. They recognize you. Who? The ancestors, the ones who remember what you are. Her throat tightens. You talk like I'm part of some prophecy. He finally faces her fully. Maybe you are. Something shifts between them. Not quite belief, not yet trust, but the beginning of something that feels like both. The wind rises, carrying the scent of rain again. Storms never stay gone for long in this forest. The alpha lifts his chin, nostrils flaring. We're being followed. Lyra's stomach drops. The Luna's hunters. He nods once. 3, maybe 4. We can reach the river's edge before they catch our scent. After that, his gaze meets hers. You'll have to run with me. Her instinct screams to resist, to hide, to vanish back into the darkness that once kept her safe. But when his hand extends toward her, rough, steady, certain, she realizes she doesn't want to vanish anymore. Lyra takes his hand. The air hums like lightning between them. And together they run, 2 shadows racing through mist, hunted by the ghosts of a past that refuses to die. The forest erupts behind them, branches cracking, hounds barking, voices cutting through the morning like blades. Lyra doesn't look back. The alpha's hand is iron around hers, dragging her over roots slick with moss. Every stride jolts through her wounds, but the heat of his grip keeps her moving. Mist thickens, turning the world to smoke. The air tastes of metal and coming rain. Left, he growls. They veer toward the river, sliding down a slope where the earth gives way under their feet. Mud streaks her legs, hair whipping across her face. Her lungs burn, but the sound of pursuit burns hotter. Through the trees, the water glimmers, a ribbon of silver cutting through green. Jump! She hesitates only a heartbeat before the alpha pulls her with him. Cold shock slams into her body as they crash into the current. The river swallows their gasps, dragging them downstream. Lyra kicks, fighting to surface. The alpha's arm wraps around her waist, anchoring her. His voice rumbles low against her ear, steady even here. Breathe with me. They break the surface. Air rushes back into her lungs, raw and sharp. They drift toward a bend where reeds mask the shore. He pushes her ahead, guiding them into cover. Both collapse onto the bank, soaked, panting. For a moment there's only sound. Water lapping, distant thunder rolling somewhere over the mountains. Lyra presses a hand to her chest, feeling her heartbeat ricochet through every nerve. You? You could have left me. He shakes water from his hair, gaze fixed on the far trees. Could have, he admits. Didn't want to. Something unspoken threads between them. Fragile. Electric. The alpha turns to her then, studying her face as though reading an ancient text. They won't stop, you understand that? I know. Her voice steadies. They never do. He leans closer, tone rough. Then you need to stop running from what you are. Lyra's throat tightens. You don't know what that means. His eyes flash gold in the shifting light. Try me. For an instant, everything narrows to that challenge. Two wills colliding, two wounds recognizing each other. Then movement catches his attention. A shimmer across the river, shapes darting between trees, hunters closing fast. He curses under his breath. We keep going. She pushes to her feet, trembling but defiant. Where? North, to the high ridge. There's an old boundary there. They can't cross it without blood permission. He shoulders his pack, gestures for her to follow. Stay close. Don't stop, no matter what you hear. Lyra nods. They move again, quieter now, threading through the densest parts of the forest. Every sense in her body sharpens. She feels the pulse of the earth, the rhythm of paws in the distance, the faint hum of her own hidden power stirring. At one point he slows, motioning for silence. Ahead, the path opens into a glade washed in pale sunlight. Deer scatter at their approach. For a fleeting second, peace seems possible. Then a howl splits the air. Closer, furious, wrong. The Luna's mark. Lyra flinches. The alpha steps in front of her, teeth bared in reflex. The sound fades, but the promise inside it lingers. We're coming. He exhales slowly. She's calling them back to her. We've bought time, not safety. Lyra wipes mud from her face. Eyes bright with exhaustion and anger. Then we make time mean something. A faint smile ghosts across his mouth. Not approval exactly, but recognition. The sun climbs higher, breaking through the mist. Their shadows stretch long across the forest floor, two shapes moving as one toward a fate neither yet understands. By dusk, the forest glows bronze and gold. The wind carries the scent of rain again, mingled with pine resin and smoke from far-off hearths. Lyra follows the alpha up the ridge until the trees thin and the ground turns to stone. Her legs tremble, but pride keeps her silent. At the crest, they find the remnants of an old watchtower, nothing more than a circle of fallen pillars, veined with moss. The alpha tests the air, then nods. We'll stop here. No scent trails cross this ground. Lyra sinks against a pillar, eyes tracing the crimson sunset, bleeding into cloud. Does anyone live out here? Not anymore, he says. The last pack abandoned it generations ago, too close to the borderlands. He builds another fire, his motions efficient, silent. Sparks leap skyward and vanish in the wind. When the flames steady, he hands her a piece of dried meat. Eat. She hesitates, then accepts. Hunger wins over pride. For a while they sit in silence, two shadows outlined in orange light. Crickets sing somewhere below, and the world feels almost gentle again. But peace rarely lingers long around her. Memories creep in like ghosts through cracks in the wall. Lyra stares at the fire until it blurs. The heat reminds her of silver, the Luna's favourite weapon. Hold still, the Luna would whisper. A servant who bleeds learns her place. She touches the faint line across her forearm where one of those lessons remains etched into skin. The Alpha notices the motion, eyes narrowing. Those scars, he says quietly. She gave them to you. Lyra's breath catches. Years of service, years of silence. She said pain makes obedience easier. He leans forward, voice low but steady. Pain makes people forget who they are. That's what she wanted. Lyra shakes her head. No, she wanted me broken enough to hide what she couldn't control. She opens her palm. A faint, silver shimmer flickers beneath her skin, the same power that once terrified an entire household. This, she said it was wrong, said it would taint the pack if anyone saw. The Alpha watches, unflinching. It doesn't look wrong to me. It killed my sister, Lyra whispers. At least, that's what they told me, that my gift burned too hot and she couldn't survive the link. After that, the Luna made sure no one touched me again. The confession hangs heavy between them. The fire pops, scattering sparks into the dark. He studies her face. And you believed them. I had to. Believing anything else meant hating myself. The Alpha's jaw tightens. Then let me say what they never did. It wasn't your fault. Her eyes lift to his. There's no pity there. Only certainty. The kind that steadies trembling hands. But before she can answer, thunder grumbles across the valley. The wind shifts, carrying the Luna's scent, sharp and sweet like winter berries crushed underfoot. Lyra freezes. Her wolf stirs restlessly beneath her skin. She's close, Lyra murmurs. The Alpha stands, gaze sweeping the horizon. She's testing the borders. She can't cross yet, not without sacrifice. Then, she'll send others. Lyra rises too, trembling with memory and dread. She always does. He looks back at her, eyes molten in the firelight. Then we'll be ready. The storm breaks above them, sudden and violent. Rain hisses against the fire, but the flames refuse to die. They crouch together under the crumbling stones as the world turns silver around them, two survivors bound by scars and thunder. Lyra whispers, barely audible, "You should let me go. I only bring ruin." His reply is quiet, almost tender. Maybe ruin is what we need to start again. Lightning splits the sky, and for a heartbeat she sees the reflection of her own power burning in his gaze, like recognition, like destiny. Night falls heavy. The storm fades to a steady drizzle, the kind that soaks everything but quiets the world. The Alpha sleeps lightly beside the fading fire, but Lyra lies awake, eyes fixed on the curve of the moon through the shattered roof. Her mind drifts backward, not by choice but by gravity. The past has teeth. She's 17 again, standing in the Luna's courtyard, mud splattered up her legs. Wolves form a circle around her, their eyes glowing like lanterns. The Luna sits above them all on a stone dais, draped in silver silk, beautiful and merciless. She broke the vessel, someone says, spilled the sacred oil. Lyra remembers the sting of rain that day, the way her hands trembled. It was an accident, she'd said. The jar cracked on its own. The Luna's smile had been small and cruel. Accidents are what weak blood calls destiny. And then the silver rod, the burn, the scent of her own skin. Lyra jerks awake in the present, heart hammering. The fire has dimmed to coals. She sits up, dragging in breath after breath. The Alpha's eyes open instantly. He was never really asleep. Nightmares, he says, not a question. They're memories. He stirs the fire back to life. She used silver on you often? Whenever I forgot what I was. He watches the sparks climb the air. Then remember now. Not what she said, what you are. Lyra presses a hand against her chest. Beneath the skin, that shimmer returns, faint, pulsing, like the heart of a star trapped in bone. It's not just power, she whispers. It's hunger. When it starts, it doesn't stop until something breaks. What started it? She swallows. Fear. Always fear. He leans closer. Then maybe you need something stronger to feed it. Like what? Purpose. The word lodges deep inside her. For so long, her life has been running, hiding, obeying. Purpose feels foreign, dangerous, tempting. Lightning flickers on the horizon, painting his face in pale fire. He looks older then, wearier, haunted by his own ghosts. What about you? She asks quietly. What drives an alpha into exile? He hesitates. A lie. One I told myself too long. About what? He shakes his head. Another time. They lapse into silence. Only the rain speaks, soft, steady, endless. Lyra's gaze drifts to her arm, to the faint veins of light threading beneath her skin. She traces them with her fingers, whispering as if confessing to the dark. The night my sister died, I didn't just lose control. I remember fire, silver fire, spilling from me. She screamed, and then she was gone. The alpha listens, still as stone. I buried that night, she says, buried myself with it. He finally meets her eyes. You didn't kill her, Lyra. Someone made you believe you did. Her pulse skips. Why would they? Because power like yours threatens thrones. The statement lands like thunder. She searches his face for deceit but finds only conviction. Sleep, he says softly. Tomorrow you'll see why they fear you. She lies back, eyes open to the storm-lit sky. For the first time, the memory of her sister's scream fades into something quieter. A whisper, maybe forgiveness, carried on the wind. Dawn seeps into the world like spilled gold. The forest breathes again, leaves tremble, birds stir, and mist curls low across the ground, painting the earth in pale silver. Lyra wakes before the alpha, drawn by something she can't name. The air hums. The same pull that haunted her dreams now thrums beneath her skin, guiding her feet east, toward the river. Every step she takes feels fated. The forest opens before her, revealing water smooth as glass. The current doesn't move, but beneath its stillness the light ripples like molten moonstone. She kneels, dipping her fingers in. The chill shocks her, but the moment her skin touches the surface, the world fractures. A voice, faint but melodic, whispers from beneath the current. Child of the twin flame, your shadow walks before your dawn. Lyra gasps, pulling her hand back. Her heart pounds in her throat. The alpha's voice comes from behind her. You heard it too, didn't you? She turns sharply. He's standing a few paces away, eyes narrowed at the river. What is this place? She asks. The ancients called it the Mirror Vein, he says. It was said to show the bloodline of the moon. The bloodline of the moon? He nods slowly. Not all werewolves are born from curses. Some were born from choice, from the goddess herself. The blood of her children glows when the moon calls them home. Lyra stares at her reflection. Her eyes glint with that same eerie silver from her nightmares. You think that's me? I know it's you. She shakes her head. I'm not divine. I'm not chosen. She falters, searching for the word. Broken. The alpha steps closer. Then maybe the goddess breaks her own to make them strong enough to rise. She doesn't respond, the words hit too deep. Instead, she watches as a soft shimmer spreads across the river's surface. Then, shapes emerge, ghostly, fluid, like memories made of light. A woman with hair like spun moonlight. A girl, younger, smaller, standing beside her. The resemblance is unmistakable. Lyra's breath catches. That's my sister. The image shifts. The older woman, the Luna, appears behind them, her eyes sharp, possessive, burning. Lyra stumbles back as the scene dissolves in a flash of light. The alpha catches her before she falls. Easy. She was there, Lyra says, shaking. My sister, the Luna. It's all connected. The fire, the river, everything. He grips her shoulders, steady but gentle. Then we'll find the truth. But you have to stay alive long enough to face it. I've been running my whole life, she whispers. What if I don't know how to stop? Then learn. His eyes hold hers. With me. Something in his tone, not command but promise, stills her. The forest quiets, as if listening. Lyra looks at the river one last time. The light fades, leaving only ripples. The whisper echoes once more, faint but clear. When the three rise under the red moon, the forgotten flame will burn again. Lyra turns to him. 3? He exhales. That's the part I was afraid of. They leave the river before the sun climbs high. The Alpha walks ahead, silent but alert, a shadow cutting through the morning mist. Lyra follows, her thoughts tangled between fear and revelation. The word 3 echoes inside her skull like a drumbeat. When the 3 rise under the red moon. 3 what? She mutters under her breath. 3 flames? 3 souls? The Alpha glances back. You'll see soon enough. Why do you always say that like you already know? He doesn't answer. The faintest smile crosses his lips, gone before she can decide if she imagined it. They travel for hours through the damp hush of ancient trees. The world grows stranger, roots twisting like veins, shadows moving even when the wind stills. Every sound feels alive. Watching. At last they reach the edge of a wide valley where the forest splits open to reveal stone ruins swallowed by moss. Lyra pauses at the sight. What is this place? The Shrine of Lyra, he says. Built long before Pax existed. Long before we forgot who we were. Lyra runs her hand along the crumbled wall. Strange markings spiral through the stone, familiar in a way that makes her stomach twist. I've seen these before. He turns. Where? In the Luna's chambers, she says slowly. Etched behind the mirror. I used to trace them when she wasn't looking. The Alpha's jaw tightens. Then she knew. Knew what? That the prophecy was real. They step inside the ruins. The air hums faintly, a low, thrumming energy that seems to recognize her presence. In the center of the shrine stands a broken pillar, its top carved with 3 interlocking symbols. One burns faintly gold, one glows with a dim silver pulse, and the last, the largest, lies dark and cold. Lyra's fingers hover above them. The air vibrates. What do they mean? She whispers. 3 alphas, he answers quietly, 3 chosen under one moon. Together, they balance the curse, or unleash it. Lyra turns to him, disbelief flickering in her voice. 3 alphas. You mean like... Yes, he says, like me. The words hang heavy between them. She studies him. The steadiness in his eyes, the hint of sorrow behind them. And the others? Scattered, divided by blood and pride. He steps closer to the pillar. But the red moon is coming. It calls us, whether we want it or not. Lyra's gaze lingers on the cold, unlit symbol. Without thinking, she touches it. The moment her skin meets the stone, the world flares white. A rush of images floods her mind. A man with storm-grey eyes kneeling before fire. Another with blood on his hands and a crown at his feet. And then herself, standing between them, her eyes glowing silver, her voice echoing. When the bloodlines meet, the world will burn or be reborn. Lyra gasps, stumbling back. The Alpha catches her again, steadying her as the light fades. What did you see? He demands. She shakes her head, breathless. 2 men, wolves, like you. They were... She hesitates. They were coming. His eyes narrow. Then the prophecy has started. Started? He looks toward the horizon, where dark clouds gather despite the morning sun. The red moon rises sooner than we thought. A low growl rumbles through the forest, distant but close enough to raise the hairs on her arms. Lyra grips his arm. What is that? He listens. Wolves, but not mine. And then the growl comes again, louder, closer, laced with fury. He draws his blade. Run! Lyra freezes. No, I'm done running. He glances at her. really looks at her, and something changes in his expression. Respect, fear, maybe both. "Then fight beside me," he says, and as the shadows move through the trees, the air thickens with power. Hers, his, and something unseen approaching fast. The forest doesn't breathe anymore, it waits. The moment stretches thin, then snaps. A howl tears through the mist, deep and brutal, followed by the pounding rhythm of paws, striking earth. Shadows dart between trees, fast and coordinated. The air thickens with the scent of iron and rain. The Alpha steps in front of Lyra, his eyes flashing gold. "Stay behind me." But she can already feel the old power inside her stirring, that strange heat rising beneath her skin, humming in her veins. The earth itself seems to pulse with her heartbeat. From the fog, the first wolf appears, huge, black as night, eyes like molten amber. Behind him, 6 more shapes fan out in a half circle. Lyra's throat tightens. Who are they? "Rival pack," he mutters. "Sent to finish what your Luna started." The lead wolf shifts, bones cracking, body reshaping until a tall man stands before them, scarred and furious. "You brought her here," he snarls. "To the shrine of the prophecy." The Alpha doesn't flinch. "She's under my protection." The rival laughs. Low, dangerous. "Protection? You can't protect what destiny already marked for death." Lyra steps forward despite his warning hand. "Why do you want me dead?" "Because you're her creation," the rival spits. "The Luna's pet. The cursed servant she twisted from pain and power." "You carry her mark." Lyra's pulse spikes. That's not true. But his words sting because part of her fears they are. The scars across her back burn faintly, as if the Luna's memory claws at her still. The Alpha's voice hardens. "You'll not touch her." The rival smirks. "Then you'll die with her." And then, chaos. Wolves explode from the fog, snapping, tearing, the clash of fangs and metal echoing like thunder. The Alpha shifts mid-motion, one moment man, the next a silver beast, massive and radiant in the stormlight. Lyra stumbles back as the world dissolves into snarls and flashes of silver. She feels her pulse sync with the rhythm of battle, her senses heightening beyond reason. Something deep inside her whispers, "Run or rise." And then, without understanding how, she raises her hands, and the earth trembles. A circle of light bursts around her feet, symbols flickering like living flame. The wolves nearest to her recoil, yelping as energy surges outward in a violent wave. For a heartbeat, the forest blazes silver. When it fades, silence reigns. Smoke curls from the ground. Several wolves lie unconscious. The rest retreat, dragging their fallen with them. Lyra stands trembling, her palms glowing faintly. The Alpha shifts back, his chest heaving, blood streaked across his shoulder. He stares at her, not with fear, but awe. "What did you just do?" She shakes her head. "I don't know, I didn't mean to." He steps closer, his voice quiet. "You called the old magic." "The what?" "Power from before the pacts," he says. "Before we were bound by blood or law, the voice of the land itself." Lyra swallows hard. "But I thought that power was gone." "It was," he says, "until you." The weight of his words crushes the air between them. The prophecy isn't just a story anymore, it's waking, and she's at its center. A rumble of thunder rolls overhead. The Alpha looks toward the horizon. "We can't stay here. More will come." Lyra glances around the scorched clearing. "Where can we go?" "There's one place they won't follow." "Where?" He meets her gaze. "The mountains of the dead." Lyra stares, her heart pounding. "That's a myth." He almost smiles. "So are you." They move quickly, weaving through the wounded forest. The moon rises pale and low, red mist curling at its edges. A sign of the coming blood moon. Lyra's body aches, but her mind burns. Each step brings new flashes of memory. The Luna's voice whispering, "You were born to serve, not to shine." The pain, the silence she was forced to keep, the lies she believed. And for the first time, she feels something new in her chest. Not fear, not sorrow, a spark of defiance. They stop at the edge of a ravine. Below, a river glows faintly, reflecting the eerie red of the rising moon. The Alpha's silhouette cuts against the light, tall, fierce, calm, despite the storm around him. Lyra looks at him, voice quiet. "Why are you helping me?" He doesn't turn. "Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it." "And who was that?" He looks at her then, eyes shadowed. "Your mother." The words hit like a blade. Lyra steps back, shaking her head. "That's not possible. My mother died when I was a child." "Did she?" His tone is soft, but certain. "Or were you told that she did?" Silence falls, thick, trembling, full of questions she's not ready to face. The wind shifts. Somewhere behind them, a howl rises again. He steps closer, his voice low. "We'll find the truth, Lyra. But first, we survive." She nods, her breath steadying. And as they leap the ravine together, moonlight breaking through clouds above them, Lyra feels it, that strange magnetic pull between them. The thread that fate began weaving long before either of them understood its shape. The mountains rise like jagged teeth against the dusk. The air is thin, sharp with cold, carrying the scent of stone and old storms. They climb in silence, every breath visible, every heartbeat echoing in the hollow wind. Behind them, the forest stretches into a dark ocean of trees. In front of them, the peaks vanish into mist. Lyra's muscles scream, her palms roar from gripping the slick rocks, but she doesn't complain. Not after what they've faced. Not after what she's learned. The Alpha moves ahead, sure-footed and silent. His silver hair catches the faint moonlight like a blade's edge. When they finally reach a narrow cave cut into the side of the mountain, he stops. "We rest here," he says, voice rough. Lyra slips inside first. The cave is shallow but dry, walls etched with strange, faded markings that glow faintly when the moonlight touches them. She runs her fingers along the symbols, spirals, wolves, flames, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. "What are these?" she whispers. "Old words," he answers, "older than the packs, the kind that remember." "Remember what?" He looks at her, his eyes catching the firelight. "Everything we forgot." He builds a small fire near the entrance. The flames flicker, painting his face in amber light, highlighting the cut along his jaw, the weariness beneath his strength. Lyra sits across from him, hugging her knees. "You said my mother helped you," she says quietly. "Tell me what you meant." He stares into the fire for a long time before speaking. "I was barely 17. My father led our pack then. A ruthless man. He believed mercy was weakness." Lyra listens, drawn by the rough honesty in his tone. "One night, he ordered me to burn a village that defied him. When I refused, he turned on me, said I was unworthy of his blood." He pauses. "Your mother found me bleeding in the woods. She healed me, without knowing who I was, without asking for anything in return." Lyra's chest tightens. "That sounds like her." "She told me something I never forgot," he says. "Strength without compassion is a curse." The fire pops, a spark drifting between them. Lyra stares into the flames. "If she was so kind, why did she leave me with the Luna?" He hesitates. "Because she thought the Luna could protect you." Lyra laughs bitterly. "Protect me? She branded me. She used me as her shadow. I was her reminder that kindness has a price." He doesn't answer, just watches her, eyes softening. "She thought she was saving you." Lyra's throat tightens. "Then she failed." "Maybe," he says, leaning closer. "Or maybe she trusted you'd survive long enough to save yourself." The words settle like warmth in her chest, painful but steadying. Silence stretches between them, filled with the soft crackle of fire. Outside, the wind howls across the peaks, carrying the cry of distant wolves. Lyra studies him in the flickering light, the strength in his shoulders, the scars on his forearms, the quiet gravity that pulls at the air around him. "You always seem like you know where we're going," she says softly, "even when you don't." His lips twitch, almost a smile. Old habit. If you look certain enough, others will follow. "And what about me?" His gaze lifts to hers, steady. "You're not others." The firelight dances between them. Her heartbeat trips. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she admits. "You will," he says, "when the time comes." For a long moment, neither speaks. The silence is heavy, but not uncomfortable, like the pause between thunder and rain. Lyra shifts closer to the fire, her voice quiet. "You could have left me. At the shrine after the attack. Why didn't you?" He looks up at her, eyes catching the light like molten silver. "Because when you touched that stone, I saw something I hadn't seen in years." "What?" "Hope." Lyra swallows, unable to look away. The air feels different, thicker, charged, the way it does before lightning splits the sky. He holds her gaze. "You don't have to trust me, Lyra. But if you're going to survive what's coming, you'll have to choose, trust me or leave." She stares at him, the flickering fire reflecting in her eyes. The choice isn't simple, it never was, but something deep in her chest already knows the answer. "I'm tired of running," she says finally. He nods once, slow, then stay. Outside, snow begins to fall, soft and silent, blanketing the jagged stones. Inside, the fire burns low, two shadows flickering together against the cave wall. And, though neither of them says another word, both feel it. The invisible thread tightening, pulling them towards something neither understands, but both can no longer resist. The storm outside fades to a whisper, but in Lyra's heart, another storm begins to rise. The mountain morning was still, too still. Snow hung in the air like held breath, and the fire in their small cave had burned down to the soft red glow of coals. Lyra woke to silence. No birds, no wind. Just that hollow kind of quiet that feels like the world waiting for something terrible to happen. She sat up, rubbing her eyes, half expecting to see him at the Alpha, where he'd been last night, sitting near the cave mouth, his back straight even in exhaustion. But the spot was empty. The prints in the snow outside were fresh, large, heavy, leading away from the cave and vanishing into mist. Her pulse quickened. Caden. His name left her mouth before she realized it, soft, uncertain. The sound died in the cold air. Something wasn't right. She could feel it. The same instinct that once warned her before every blow, every cruel command under the luna's reign. It whispered now. "You're not safe." She stepped outside. The air cut through her like ice. The mountains stretched out endless and pale beneath a bruised sky. Far below, she saw movement, faint figures along the ridgeline, wolves maybe, or something worse. Then she heard voices. Low. Male. And one of them was his. Lyra crouched behind a rock, heart thundering. "You shouldn't have brought her here," a stranger's voice said. "If the Luna finds out—" "She already knows," Caden replied, his tone flat, weary. Lyra froze. The sound of his voice, calm, cold, unfamiliar, hit her like a physical blow. "She sent me a message through the mind link," he continued. "Said the girl was never meant to leave alive." The stranger laughed bitterly. "So what now? You hand her over?" A long pause. Too long. Then Caden's answer came. Quiet, heavy. "If it keeps the packs from war, maybe I have to." The world seemed to tilt. Lyra gripped the rock so hard her knuckles ached. No, she must have misheard. He wouldn't, but the wind carried his words clear as glass, cutting through her hope. "I can't stop the Luna alone," he said. "She has the Council's ear. The elders believe the prophecy ends with Lyra's death. If I defy them now, then you'll die with her," the other voice finished. Caden didn't deny it. Lyra stepped back, her vision blurring. The cold bit through her boots, but she couldn't feel it. Her chest felt hollow, like the air had been torn out of it. After everything. After the firelight and his quiet words. After trust me or leave. She had trusted. And now the truth cut deeper than any scar the Luna ever gave her. She turned and ran. Snow crunched underfoot, the world spinning in white and grey. The tears on her cheeks froze before they could fall. All she could hear was his voice repeating in her head. Maybe I have to. When she finally stopped, her body was shaking so hard she could barely breathe. The edge of the cliff loomed before her, wind howling up from below. She looked out at the endless expanse of sky and thought, maybe it would be easier to disappear, to stop running from pain that never ends. Then, a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Lyra. She turned. The mist behind her moved, not from wind, but from something stepping through it. A woman's shape emerged, tall and graceful, draped in white. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. Her smile was the same one Lyra had seen for years, gentle, beautiful, merciless. The Luna. Lyra's voice cracked. You're not real. The Luna tilted her head. You say that every time I visit, little flame. Lyra stumbled back, shaking. I'm not yours anymore. The Luna's smile widened. Oh, my dear. Everything that burns still belongs to the one who lit the match. The words slid into her mind like smoke, soft and poisonous. Lyra clutched her temples, pain blooming behind her eyes. The marks on her back flared, glowing faint red beneath her skin. Stop. You thought he could save you, the Luna murmured, stepping closer. But I made him long before he found you. Lyra's heart dropped. What are you talking about? The Luna's voice was silk and venom. Who do you think taught him to obey? The vision flickered, then vanished, leaving Lyra gasping, trembling, alone again in the snow. But somewhere deep inside, the Luna's laughter echoed, cruel and cold. Lyra fell to her knees, hands shaking. She didn't know what hurt more, the Luna's words, or the part of her that feared they were true. Behind her, faint footsteps approached. Caden's voice, quiet, careful. Lyra. She didn't turn. Don't. He stopped only a few feet away. The air between them was thin and sharp. I heard what she said, she whispered. Tell me she's lying. Caden hesitated. The silence was answer enough. Lyra's breath broke. You used me. His voice was rough. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? She demanded, spinning to face him. Her eyes burned with tears and power. Protection? Duty? Pity? His jaw clenched. I was trying to keep you alive. By handing me back to her? The wind roared between them, full of pain that words couldn't hold. Lyra took a step back. You said I could trust you. And you can, he said, but his voice cracked, betraying him. She shook her head. No, I can't. And with that, the faint silver glow of her power flared, light spilling from her hands like wildfire. The mountain trembled, the snow around her lifted in spirals of light. Lyra! But she was already gone, swallowed by the storm she called forth. That was the moment the prophecy shifted, when heartbreak became power, when the girl who served became the woman the world would fear. And from that night on, nothing between them, or their fates, would ever be the same. Perfect. We'll move straight into the next chapter in the same audiobook. Cinematic narration. Hour 4. Part 2. The power claimed. Tone, stormy, emotional, awakening. Lyra's grief transforms into raw strength, and the Luna's empire trembles from afar. The storm didn't end when Lyra vanished. It grew. Winds screamed across the mountains, tearing through pine and stone. The snow turned silver in the air, not from moonlight but from something burning beneath it. At the storm's heart, Lyra walked, barefoot, eyes open, her power unbound for the first time. Each step melted the ice beneath her, each breath bent the wind to her will. Tears streaked her cheeks, freezing then vanishing into light. Her mind was chaos. Flashes of his voice, her past, the Luna's laughter, all twisting into one sharp thought. Never again. Far below, the packs felt it. Wolves woke mid-howl, collapsing under invisible weight. The air itself pulsed, and those who had once whispered her name in mockery now trembled in awe. The Alpha Council's fires dimmed. Even the Luna, miles away in her dark citadel, paused mid-command, her cup of wine shattering in her grip. Her golden eyes widened. "She's awakened," she breathed. A servant dropped to his knees, trembling. "My queen!" The Luna's lips curved into a smile that did not reach her eyes. "So, the little flame finally burns." Her tone shifted, low and dangerous. "Then we must remind her who gave her the spark." Back on the mountain, the wind began to still. Lyra stood on a cliff edge, hair wild, surrounded by a faint ring of light burned into the snow. Her body trembled with exhaustion, but her gaze was steady, distant, focused inward. Something called to her. A rhythm beneath her skin, like a second heartbeat. Old, ancient, familiar. She looked down at her hands. The faint scars that once marked her palms now shimmered faint gold. Then she heard it, faint whispers, like echoes through the years. Lyra, child of ash and moonlight. She spun, searching the shadows. "Who's there?" No answer, only the rustle of trees bending away from her. The voice came again, softer. "Do not fear what you are. Fear what you'll become if you stop." Her breath caught. The words didn't sound like the Luna's. They sounded older, kinder. She closed her eyes and for a moment saw a memory not her own, a field of light. A silver lake beneath a crimson moon, a woman standing barefoot in the water, her eyes gentle, her voice strong. "Every flame comes from a greater fire," the woman said, "and you, Lyra, were never born to serve, only to rise." The vision faded as quickly as it came, leaving her gasping. Snowflakes began to fall again, softer now, glowing faintly where they touched her skin, and deep within her, the ache of betrayal slowly reshaped itself into something fierce, something alive. Power. She could feel it moving through her veins like lightning searching for release. Not the Luna's gift, no. This was older, freer, raw. The mountain beneath her feet hummed. Somewhere behind her she heard a voice, Caden's voice, fighting against the wind, calling her name. She didn't turn, she couldn't. Her power was still wild, untamed. If she looked at him now, she feared she might destroy what little was left between them. "Lyra, please!" he shouted, forcing his way closer. She finally faced him, and he stopped. Her eyes glowed, silver and gold intertwined, like two stars caught in the same orbit. "Caden," she said softly. Her voice trembled, both love and pain in every syllable. "You taught me to survive. But now I have to learn how to live." He took a step forward. "You don't have to do it alone." She shook her head, tears glimmering again. "I already am." And with that she raised her hand, not in anger but in quiet release. The air between them shimmered, rippled. And then she was gone, carried by her own light, vanishing into the storm. Hours later, the wind died. The mountains slept under moonlight again. Caden stood alone at the cliff's edge, her footprints already vanishing beneath the snow. He whispered into the empty air, "Forgive me." Far away in the Luna's citadel, mirrors cracked. Flames wavered. A faint tremor shook the ground. And for the first time in years, the Luna looked afraid. "She's coming," she whispered. The night after Lyra vanished, silence fell over the territories. Not peace, silence. The kind that comes before war. the kind the earth itself holds its breath for. At the Luna's fortress, the air smelled of fear and iron. The torches burned blue, a sign that blood magic had been stirred. Inside the grand hall, the Luna stood at the window, watching storm clouds coil over the peaks. Her golden gown dragged across the cold marble, leaving trails of ember-like light. Behind her knelt a dozen wolves, heads bowed so low their foreheads touched the floor. "Find her," the Luna said, her voice quiet, too quiet. "Find the girl who thought she could walk away from me." The silence stretched, brittle as glass. Then one of the wolves, a scarred male with ash-grey fur, lifted his head. "My queen, the flame has awakened in her. We felt it even from here. She is—" The Luna turned slowly, her eyes glinting like molten gold. "She is nothing without the will to use it." Her nails, sharp as claws, grazed his chin, lifting it until he met her gaze. "Do not mistake a flicker for fire." She smiled, and it was terrible. "Bring me her heart. Leave her body for the crows." Far from the fortress, the world looked different. Lyra woke to the quiet rhythm of rain dripping from pine needles. The air was cold and damp, filled with the smell of moss and soil. She had found shelter in an abandoned hunter's cabin, its roof sagging, its walls half eaten by time. But it was safe. For now, her body ached. Her magic had drained her dry. But when she reached inward, she could still feel it. That strange silver warmth pulsing beneath her ribs, waiting. She flexed her fingers, watching faint sparks shimmer across her palms. It didn't burn this time, it felt right, balanced. Still, each flicker reminded her of Caden, of his face in the storm, torn between love and loyalty. Her chest tightened. "You'll come for me," she whispered into the empty cabin. "But when you do, what side will you be on?" The wind outside rustled as if answering. Hours passed. She cleaned her wounds, patched the walls with old blankets, and listened to the forest breathe. But the peace didn't last. The wolves came at dusk. At first, she felt them before she heard them. The faint tremor beneath her feet, the shift in the air. Her heart began to race, instinct screaming. She blew out the single candle and crept to the window. Out there, between the trees, she saw shadows moving, fast, low to the ground, eyes glinting faint red in the gloom. Hunters. No, not hunters. Hounds. Bound by the Luna's spell, half beast, half spirit. They moved like smoke and death combined. Lyra swallowed hard. She had no weapon, no pack, only the power she barely understood. The first one lunged through the window, glass shattered, wood splintered. Lyra hit the floor, rolling just as claws tore through the boards where she'd been. Her hand flared instinctively, silver fire bursting outward in a ring. The creature screamed, dissolving into ash before it could land another strike. But more were coming. 3, 4, maybe more. Their growls echoed like thunder. Lyra staggered to her feet, blood streaking her arm. She raised both hands, trembling. "Please, don't make me do this." They didn't stop. The next moment, the cabin exploded in light. Her power erupted like a wave, a burst so bright it turned night into day. The ground split. The trees shook. And when it was over, the clearing was empty except for ash swirling in the rain. Lyra fell to her knees, gasping, shaking. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. It was over, but she'd seen it. The way her flames curved, almost deliberate, forming symbols in the air before fading. Ancient marks, words she didn't understand. Her breath came out ragged. "What are you trying to tell me?" For a long time the forest didn't answer. Then, faintly, a whisper carried on the wind. Not power. Memory. Far away, Caden awoke in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. He had felt it again. The flare, the pulse of her magic. He sat up, running a trembling hand through his hair. Lyra, beside him. One of his lieutenants stirred. "Alpha, we're being summoned to the fortress." The Luna commands your presence. Caden's jaw clenched. She'll command nothing from me. But he knew the truth. No alpha defied the Luna and lived long. Still, as he looked toward the mountains, toward where the lightning still flashed in the distance, he whispered, "Hold on, Flame. I'll find you before they do." The hunt had begun, but neither the Luna nor Caden knew the truth yet, that the forest itself was shifting in Lyra's favour. Every creature that had once avoided her now followed her scent in silence. Every gust of wind seemed to guide her steps. And in the reflection of a nearby stream, when she finally looked up, she no longer saw the servant girl she'd been. She saw the beginning of something the Luna had always feared. A legend reborn. Dawn crawled slowly over the forest, pale and thin like a memory of light rather than the real thing. Mist coiled through the trees, soft as breath. The world felt fragile, as if one wrong step could shatter it. Lyra moved quietly between the shadows, guided by something she didn't understand. Her wounds had closed, though she hadn't healed them. The forest seemed to do it for her, the ground pulsing faintly with every step she took, roots shifting to clear her path. For hours she walked. The deeper she went, the older everything became. Trees widened into titans, their bark etched with strange silver veins. The air shimmered faintly, not just mist now, but energy. And then she saw it. An archway, half buried in ivy, carved from stone that hummed under her fingertips. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface, the same ones her fire had drawn in the air the night before. Her chest tightened. "What are you?" she whispered. The wind sighed through the arch. "Home." She froze. The voice wasn't hers. It wasn't in her ears. It was inside. A pulse of warmth rippled through the arch, and before she could think, her hand reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the stone, the forest around her fell away. Light. Blinding. Endless light. And then the shapes began to form, mountains in reverse, rivers glowing silver, wolves made of smoke running through the sky. She was standing in a place that wasn't quite real, a memory carved into the world itself. Before her, a circle of figures appeared, tall, robed, ancient. Their eyes burned like stars, their forms flickering like flame. "Welcome, Flame-bearer." Their voices were many, yet one. Lyra's breath caught. "I don't understand. Who are you?" "The ones who came before. The blood that burns in you was ours once." The ground beneath her shimmered, revealing an enormous symbol, a crescent wolf surrounding a flame. She knelt, trembling. "Then it's true. The Luna wasn't my creator. She was my captor." A faint murmur rippled through the spirits. "She feared what you were, so she caged what she could not control." Lyra swallowed hard. "Then why me? Why keep me alive?" "Because only you can end what she began." The light pulsed brighter, forming an image. The Luna, younger, standing before an altar, blood dripping from her hand as she whispered an ancient spell. Around her, wolves bowed, their eyes hollow, bound by chains of gold. Lyra reached toward the image. "That's how she enslaved them." "Yes." She twisted the flame, bent it to her will. The voice softened. "But the true fire cannot be owned. It can only awaken." Lyra felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but from something older, deeper. Destiny, maybe. "I don't want power," she whispered. "I just want peace." Peace is born only when truth is free. The vision began to fade, the world dimming. "Wait," she cried. "Tell me how to stop her." The voices echoed one final time, distant now. "Find the heart of the moon. The flame will guide you." And then she was alone again, back in the forest, the archway behind her silent. She sank to her knees, shaking. The echo of the vision still burned inside her. For a long time she didn't move. Only the wind answered her thoughts, carrying fragments of whispers through the trees. Then, faintly, a scent reached her. one she knew by heart. Caden. Her pulse quickened. She turned, scanning the trees. No, not now. But he was already there, stepping out of the mist like a ghost wearing guilt. He looked tired, shadows beneath his eyes, his clothes torn from travel. But when he saw her, something in him broke open. Lyra, he breathed. Her name left his mouth like a prayer and a curse at once. She stood, unsure whether to run or reach for him. You shouldn't have come. I had to. He took a step closer, cautious, reverent. The Luna sent her hounds again. They'll never stop unless... Unless what? She snapped, her voice trembling. Unless I go back and die quietly for her peace? He flinched. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Caden. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then quietly. She has my sister. The words cut deeper than any blade. Lyra's anger faltered, giving way to shock. Your sister? She took her the night you left. Said she'd release her only if I bring you back alive. For a moment, neither spoke. The forest around them seemed to still, holding its breath. Lyra's voice broke. And what will you do? His hands trembled. I came to warn you. But if I walk away, she dies. Her heart cracked. There it was, the choice that could tear them both apart. Slowly she nodded, tears streaking her cheeks. Then you'll have to decide which one of us you can live without. He reached out, desperate. Lyra! But before he could touch her, a ripple tore through the air, a shadow rising behind him. Black smoke twisting into the shape of a wolf. The Luna's magic. Lyra screamed, light bursting from her hands. It struck the shadow mid-lunge, exploding in silver fire. Caden staggered back, shielding his face. When the smoke cleared, the space where the shadow had been was scorched into a mark, the same crescent flame symbol glowing faintly on the ground. Lyra's breath came in ragged gasps. She's watching us. Caden met her gaze, horror dawning. Then she knows where you are. Far away in the fortress, the Luna smiled as the mirrors in her chamber rippled with silver light. Found you, she whispered. The forest had gone too quiet. No birds, no rustle of branches. Even the wind seemed to hesitate, as if holding its breath for something it didn't dare name. Lyra stood beside the dying fire, cloak drawn around her shoulders, eyes fixed on the horizon. The faint glow of dawn was struggling to break through the clouds, painting the mist in dull silver. Caden was a few paces away, kneeling beside a stream to refill a water skin. He hadn't spoken since the shadow attack. The silence between them felt heavier than the storm they'd survived. Lyra turned toward him finally, her voice soft. We can't stay here. He didn't look up. I know. She studied the tension in his shoulders, the stiffness of someone holding too many secrets, too much guilt. Then why does it feel like you're already leaving? He froze, the water skin slipping from his hand. When he finally met her eyes, there was no anger there, only grief. Because I might have to. Her throat tightened. Because of her? He nodded. The Luna sent word through the bond. She's using my sister as a messenger now. Her scent was on the wind when I scouted ahead. She's close, Lyra. Too close. Lyra's heart began to hammer. Then she knows where we are. She's been closing the circle around us since nightfall, he said. I think she wants me to bring you in alive, but if I don't, she'll kill your sister. He didn't have to answer. His silence said enough. For a long moment, neither moved. The only sound was the faint crackle of dying embers. Finally, Lyra stepped closer, her voice trembling. You came to save me once. Don't lose yourself trying to do it again. He looked at her, really looked at her, and something inside him broke. You think I can't see what she's done to you? Every scar, every lie she carved into you? His voice cracked, low and furious. You deserve more than running and hiding. You deserve a life that's yours. Lyra blinked back tears. And your sister deserves to live. I won't let her die because of me. Don't, he said sharply. Don't say that. But she was already stepping away, determination hardening her face. I know how she thinks, Caden. I served her for years. Every order she gave, every fear she planted, it's still in my head. She won't stop until she has control again. Caden stood, moving to stop her. Lyra, let me finish, she said, her voice calm but shaking beneath the surface. If she's close, then she's watching, and if she's watching, she's waiting for you to bring me in. He clenched his jaw. You're not walking into her hands? Lyra turned to face him, her eyes glowing faint silver in the dawn. Maybe it's time she sees what those hands can do. The air changed. A ripple passed through the forest, subtle at first, then sharper, like a sound too low for mortal ears. Caden's instincts kicked in instantly. His eyes snapped toward the tree line. She's here. No, Lyra whispered, scanning the mist. She's everywhere. The scent of roses, and sweet and cold, drifted through the clearing, the Luna's calling card. Then came the whispers, soft, layered, dozens of voices speaking as one. Caden, Lyra, come home. Lyra's blood ran cold. That's her magic. Caden drew his blade, though they both knew steel meant little against spells older than blood. Stay behind me. Lyra almost laughed, a broken, breathless sound. I think we're past that now. The mist thickened, curling into shapes. Wolves formed from shadow, their eyes golden with the Luna's mark. They circled the clearings slowly, silent but for the low rumble of growls. At their centre, a figure emerged, tall, graceful, wrapped in a cloak that shimmered like midnight silk. The Luna. Even from a distance, her presence pressed against the air like a physical weight. Her voice carried effortlessly. My lost children, how far you've run, only to find yourselves here. Caden's grip tightened on his blade. Release her, Luna. This isn't the way. The Luna smiled, pitying. Oh, my dear Alpha. Everything I've ever done was the way. You just lacked the vision to see it. Her gaze slid to Lyra. And you, little flame, still burning, still pretending you weren't made to serve. Lyra stood tall, shoulders squared despite the tremor in her hands. You didn't make me. You broke me. But I put myself back together. The Luna tilted her head. Bold words for a girl who trembles before her power. Lyra's eyes flashed. Then maybe it's time I stop trembling. The Luna raised her hand. The wolves lunged. Caden met the first with a snarl, steel clashing with shadow. Sparks flew as his blade struck through smoke that turned solid and then burst apart again. Lyra spun, light igniting in her palms. Each motion drew silver arcs through the air, her flames no longer wild but flowing, alive, aware. The wolves howled as they burned, but for every one that fell, another took its place. Caden shouted over the roar, She's testing you, don't give her what she wants. Lyra's power surged, tearing through the clearing like a storm. Then maybe she'll finally see what I've become. Above them, the Luna watched with that eerie calm, as though she'd expected every move. Then she whispered a single word, one that cracked the air like thunder. Lyra froze, the power in her veins twisted, turning against her. Her body jerked, pain flashing white-hot through her. She fell to her knees, choking. Lyra! Caden dropped beside her, catching her before she hit the ground. The Luna smiled. Did you really think I wouldn't leave a piece of myself inside you, little flame? You're mine, no matter how bright you burn. Lyra's breath came ragged, her eyes wide with fury and fear. Not anymore. The Luna stepped closer, her cloak dragging shadows behind her like ink. Prove it. And then the sky broke. Lightning tore through the clouds, but it wasn't natural. It was silver, alive. The ground split, light erupting upward, wrapping around Lyra's body like a living storm. Her scream echoed through the valley, not in pain, but release. The Luna stumbled back, shielding her eyes. Caden looked up, awe and terror mingling in his face. The chains of power that bound Lyra began to melt away, symbols of fire replacing the luna's marks. Lyra rose, floating slightly above the ground, hair whipping around her like a halo of flame. When she spoke, her voice was layered, hers, and something ancient beneath it. You shouldn't have come for me, Luna. For a heartbeat, time itself forgot to move. The forest, the mist, the shadows, all suspended in a single breath as Lyra hung in the air, glowing with a light that burned like dawn reborn. Caden shielded his eyes, blinking against the radiance. It wasn't just magic, it was memory, life, and vengeance woven into light. Every heartbeat of pain Lyra had ever endured seemed to ignite around her, melting into strength. The Luna staggered backward, her composure cracking for the first time. "No," she whispered, voice trembling. "That's not possible." Lyra opened her eyes. They burned a molten gold. "You built me from your power," she said softly, "but you forgot what happens when fire learns to think for itself," the Luna hissed. "You're nothing without me. A child born of shadows, pretending to be light." Lyra's answer was a whisper that shook the sky. "Then let me show you what light does to shadows." She raised her hands. The air screamed. Silver flames burst from her fingertips, spiraling into the clouds and cascading down in streaks that split the earth. The ground cracked open, swallowing the dark wolves whole as the light burned through their forms. Every shadow screamed, and then fell silent. The Luna's eyes blazed with fury. "You think this will make you free? You can burn the cage, girl, but not the chains that bind your soul to mine." With a violent motion, she tore the pendant from her neck, a crystal black as spilled ink. It pulsed once, and the clearing shuddered. Caden felt it first, the pull, the suction of power, the drag of something ancient waking beneath the soil. "Lyra, she's calling the binding spirit," he shouted, his voice raw. Lyra turned sharply. "Then we end this now." The Luna's cloak flared open, spilling darkness that crawled like smoke over the ground. And from that darkness a shape rose, something vast, eyeless, with hands of shadow that gripped the air. The binding spirit. Lyra's light dimmed for a moment as its presence filled the clearing. The very forest seemed to bow beneath its weight. "You cannot win," the Luna said, her voice almost kind again. "You are my reflection. Your power only exists because of me." Lyra's gaze steadied. "Then you should have never taught your reflection how to see." She thrust her hands forward, light meeting darkness, heat meeting void. The collision wasn't sound, it was feeling, a vibration that shook bone, blood, and air alike. Caden fell to his knees, struggling to breathe under the pressure. "Lyra!" She didn't hear him. She was the storm now. Every memory surged through her. The Luna's betrayal, Caden's touch, her mother's lullaby, fragments of life and death braided into pure force. The chains burned into her skin began to glow. First red, then white, then gold. One by one they shattered. The Luna screamed, clutching her chest as cracks of light split across her own skin. "No, stop, you don't understand what you're doing." Lyra's voice was calm, resonant, otherworldly. "I do. I'm ending you." And then the world exploded. Light and shadow collided in a shockwave that rolled through the valley. Trees bowed, rivers broke their banks, and the mist was torn apart like silk. Caden was thrown backward into the earth, breath ripped from his lungs. He forced himself up, coughing, searching the blinding light for her. "Lyra!" When the light began to fade, he saw her, standing in the center of the clearing, flames still curling around her hands. The Luna lay crumpled several feet away, her once perfect cloak in tatters. The binding spirit was gone, the chains were gone, but Lyra was trembling, her light flickering weakly, like a candle fighting the wind. Caden stumbled to her side, catching her before she fell. "Hey, hey, stay with me." She smiled faintly, exhaustion softening her features. "She can't control me anymore." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "You broke her hold." Lyra's gaze shifted toward the fallen Luna, whose voice was now just a rasp. You think it's over. Caden turned sharply, ready to strike, but Lyra stopped him with a touch. Let her speak, the Luna coughed, blood on her lips, eyes wild. You've unbound yourself, yes, but the mark of the binding runs deeper than the flesh. Every power you have, every flame you wield, it's still born of me. Burn too bright, and you'll burn with me. Lyra's voice was a whisper. Then I'll take that risk. The Luna laughed, a sound broken but defiant. Then the prophecy holds true. The fire that kills the darkness will also consume the light. Her body began to dissolve, not fade but disintegrate, breaking into ash that drifted away on the wind. Caden held Lyra tighter as the last echo of the Luna's voice faded into the silence. Then, silence. No magic, no whispers. Just the steady rhythm of their breathing, fragile and human again. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The dawn was breaking fully now, pale gold spilling through the shattered forest. Lyra looked down at her hands. The glow was gone, only faint scars remained, and a lingering warmth that felt almost alive. Caden spoke softly. You did it. You ended her. Lyra shook her head. No, I changed her end. There's a difference. He frowned. What do you mean? She's gone, but her power isn't. It's still here, I can feel it. She pressed a trembling hand to her heart. Inside me. Caden's jaw tightened. Then we'll learn to control it. Together. Lyra smiled weakly. You really think you can handle that? He met her eyes, steady, unflinching. I've handled worse. I almost lost you. That made her laugh. Tired, real, and beautiful in the soft light. Then maybe we're even. But far beyond them, in the ashes of the Luna's last stand, something stirred. The wind whispered through the burned ground, curling around a single shard of black crystal half buried in the dirt. It pulsed once, faintly. Then again. And in the silence a whisper too soft for mortal ears brushed the air. The fire burns. But so does the shadow. The forest slept beneath the breath of dawn. Ash fell like slow rain, silver against the newborn light. Where once the Luna's darkness had sprawled, now there was only stillness, the kind that comes after destruction, heavy and sacred. Lyra stood at the edge of what had been a battlefield, her bare feet sinking into the cold soil. The world smelled of smoke and new beginnings. Caden watched her from a few paces away, the morning light catching on the scars that marked her arms. Fine, pale lines that shimmered like quiet lightning. He wanted to reach out, to touch them. But something about the way she stared into the horizon made him pause. She wasn't the same woman he'd met in the shadows. There was something different in her eyes now. Not fear, not even anger, but a vast, unspoken question. You should rest, he said quietly. Lyra didn't turn. Rest feels strange, like stopping when the fire's still burning. He moved closer, voice gentle. The fire will wait. You don't have to. That earned him a small, weary smile. You sound sure of that. I have to be, he said simply. If I'm not, then what was all this for? They stayed there for a while, the wind moving softly through the burned branches. Somewhere far off, wolves began to howl, cautious, uncertain, as though the forest itself was testing its new freedom. Caden finally broke the silence. The packs will need to know what happened here, Lyra nodded slowly. They'll want answers. They'll want you, he said. You broke the Luna's curse, you freed them. Lyra shook her head. No one frees anyone, Caden. I just tore down a wall. They still have to walk through it. He looked at her, really looked, and realized that beneath her calm, she was trembling. Not from weakness, but from something deeper. Guilt, memory, the echo of power that still pulsed faintly beneath her skin. You feel it, don't you? He asked. She closed her eyes. It's inside me. Her voice isn't gone. It's just quieter. Caden took her hand. Then we make it quieter still. She squeezed his fingers, a silent thank you, a fragile tether in the vast emptiness around them. By the time they reached the edge of the valley, the sun had climbed higher. Its warmth felt wrong against the chill that lingered in Lyra's chest. The ruins of the Luna's fortress lay scattered like broken teeth along the ridge. The air there still shimmered faintly, carrying whispers of old spells. Caden stopped beside a fallen archway. We should burn the rest. Make sure nothing of her remains. Lyra hesitated. Burning it won't erase what it did to us. Maybe not, he said. But it'll stop it from doing worse. She looked around, the scorched stones, the blackened trees, the soil still warm beneath their feet, and then nodded. Then we burn it. The flames they lit were small at first, gold tongues licking quietly at the edges of old walls, consuming without mercy. But as the fire grew, so did the ache in Lyra's chest. Every flicker felt like a memory tearing free, her first day serving the Luna, the endless commands, the quiet punishments hidden behind smiles. Caden noticed her trembling and moved closer. "You're safe now," he murmured. She shook her head. "I don't know what that means anymore." He didn't argue. Instead, he wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her against him as the ruins burned. And for a while they just stood there, two survivors watching their past turn to ash. But deep beneath the smoke, unseen by either of them, something pulsed. The shard of black crystal, the last remnant of the Luna's power, had rolled to the base of the valley, half buried under stone and soot. Now, as the firelight touched it, the shard throbbed with a faint glow. Once, twice, then steady, like a heartbeat returning. A shadow passed over it. Not a wolf, not a man. Something in between. Its eyes opened in the darkness. Golden, unfamiliar, watching. Night came again, soft and uncertain. They had found shelter in the remnants of an old watchtower. Caden built a small fire in the corner, its light flickering against the stone. Lyra sat beside it, knees drawn close, staring into the flames as though they might answer the questions she couldn't ask. "Do you ever wonder," she said suddenly, "if we just traded one curse for another?" Caden looked up from sharpening his blade. "What do you mean?" "The Luna ruled by fear. Her chains were visible. But power like this, what's inside me now? It doesn't show. It hides. It whispers." Caden set the blade down, his expression softening. "You think it'll change you?" Lyra's voice cracked slightly. "What if it already has?" He reached for her hand again, slower this time, letting her decide. When she didn't pull away, he said, "Then I'll remind you who you are. Every time you forget." That made her laugh, a quiet, broken sound that somehow felt like hope. "That's a heavy promise, Alpha." He smiled faintly. "I've carried worse." The fire burned low. Outside, the forest began to breathe again. Leaves rustling, wolves calling to one another in the distance. Lyra leaned her head against the wall, eyes fluttering shut. "Do you hear that?" Caden listened. "What?" "The forest," she whispered. "It's not afraid anymore." He smiled faintly. "Then maybe neither should we." But just as the words left his lips, a sharp wind blew through the broken tower window, cold, unnatural, carrying with it a single whisper. Lyra's eyes snapped open. She turned toward the fire, heart hammering. Caden felt it too, that shift in the air, the flicker of energy that didn't belong. "What was that?" he asked, rising to his feet. Lyra's voice was barely audible. "Something waking." Far away, deep beneath the valley, the shard pulsed brighter. And the whisper of the Luna's last words returned, soft but unmistakable. "The fire that kills the darkness will also consume the light." It began with a dream. Lyra stood in a forest of silver trees. Every leaf shimmered like moonlight on water, and when she breathed, the air tasted like ash. Somewhere ahead, she heard a voice, low, melodic, familiar. "Do you miss me?" She turned, and the trees leaned closer, their branches bending as though to listen. "Who's there?" Laughter soft and distant. "Don't pretend you don't know." The ground beneath her feet rippled, becoming glass. Reflected in it, she saw not her own face, but the Luna's, only it wasn't quite her. The eyes were Lyra's. The scars, too. "You burned me," the reflection whispered. "But fire never dies, Lyra. It just changes shape." Lyra's hands trembled. "You're not real. You're gone." The reflection smiled, cruel and knowing. "Gone. I'm in every breath you take, every spark that answers your call." Then the forest erupted into flame. The silver leaves turned to smoke. The reflection's laughter echoed as Lyra fell through the burning ground, her own scream lost in the roar of fire. She woke with a gasp, heart pounding, sweat dampening her skin. The small fire in the tower had gone out, leaving only embers. Caden was awake too, sitting near the doorway, his silhouette etched against the faint glow of dawn. He turned as she stirred. "Another nightmare?" he asked quietly. Lyra pressed a hand to her chest, forcing her breathing to steady. "It wasn't just a dream. I saw her again." His eyes darkened. "The Luna?" She nodded slowly. "She spoke to me, said the fire never dies." Caden frowned. "It's just your mind replaying the fight. You've barely slept since that night." But Lyra shook her head. "No, it felt real. I could feel her, like she was inside me." For a long moment he said nothing. Then, quietly, "You think some of her power survived?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't think it ever left." The morning was grey. The light thin and tired as they set out from the tower. The air smelled of rain, heavy and metallic. They followed the ridge toward the river, where the other packs were gathering, wolves from the northern and eastern borders, summoned to rebuild what the Luna had destroyed. As they walked, Lyra could feel it. The faint pulse in her veins, soft but insistent, like a heartbeat that wasn't hers. She tried to ignore it, but every time her fingers brushed against her scars, warmth spread beneath her skin. When they reached the river, the others were already waiting. Dozens of eyes turned toward her, some filled with awe, others with fear. She was no longer the servant girl who carried water and hid her bruises. She was something else now, a legend wrapped in flesh. And legends, she knew, were dangerous things. Caden stepped forward, addressing the gathered wolves. "The Luna's reign is over," he said. "Her magic is broken. The packs are free." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Relief, disbelief, hope. Lyra stood behind him, her expression calm, but inside her heart twisted, because even as he said the words, she could feel it. The faint vibration in the air, the whisper curling around her thoughts. "Free? You'll never be free." She stiffened. "Lyra," Caden glanced back at her. She forced a smile. "I'm fine." But she wasn't, not even close. That night the rain came. They camped along the river's edge, the air thick with smoke from the fires the wolves had built. Lyra sat apart from the others, watching the water shift and swirl beneath the dark sky. Her reflection rippled on the surface, pale, ghost-like. She whispered to it, "What are you?" The river didn't answer, but then softly the water began to move. Her reflection blinked, even though she hadn't. It smiled, even though she didn't. Lyra stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat, and then she heard it. The voice again, faint but clear. "You carry my flame, little wolf. You can't destroy what you are." Lyra clutched her head, shaking it violently. "Get out of me!" The fire nearest her flared suddenly, rising twice its height before snapping back to embers. The sound drew Caden's attention. He was at her side in seconds. "Lyra, what happened?" She stared at the fire, trembling. "She's here. She's not gone." Caden's eyes searched hers. What did you see? Not see. Feel. She's inside my power. Every time I use it, she breathes through me. He grabbed her shoulders. Then stop using it. Lyra's voice cracked. I can't. It's part of me now. If I stop, it'll find another way out. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain hissed against the coals. The wind howled through the valley like a wounded thing. Finally, Caden whispered, Then we find a way to contain it, before it consumes you. Lyra looked at him, eyes bright, tears unshed. And if it's already too late, he didn't hesitate, then I'll burn with you. But even as he said it, something shifted in the shadows behind them. A faint glow pulsed from the riverbank, the shard, hidden beneath the mud, now fully awake. Its black surface shimmered with crimson veins, beating in rhythm with Lyra's heart. And far away beyond the valley and the reach of the packs, another presence stirred, ancient, aware, and calling to the flame that had survived. The whisper grew stronger, not from the shard, not from the Luna, but from something older than both, something that had been waiting for Lyra all along. The nights grew longer after the rain. At first, no one noticed. The wolves thought it was just the season shifting, autumn stretching its shadow across the valley. But Lyra knew better. The dark felt alive. It watched her. It waited. Every fire she lit took longer to catch. Every reflection, in water, in glass, in the blade of her knife, lingered half a heartbeat too long before mirroring her movement. And the whisper was no longer confined to dreams. Sometimes it hummed in the wind. Sometimes it sang beneath her skin. And once, as she washed her hands in the river, it spoke, clear as thought, sharp as glass. Soon. Lyra froze, staring down at the rippling water. The voice had come not from the air, but from inside her chest. They were travelling north now, following the ridge toward the packs of the mountain clans. Caden hoped to unite them, to build something lasting out of the ruins the Luna had left behind. But the deeper they went, the heavier the air grew. The wolves in the trees no longer howled. The forest seemed to hold its breath as though fearing what walked among them. One night, as they camped beneath a cliff, Caden noticed the change. Lyra sat by the fire, her eyes distant, unfocused. The flames didn't reflect gold in them anymore as they flickered red. He moved closer, crouching beside her. You haven't slept in days. She didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the fire as if it were whispering secrets only she could hear. Lyra. He touched her arm gently. She blinked, then looked at him, startled, as if seeing him for the first time. I'm fine. No, he said quietly, you're not. She smiled, but it wasn't her real smile. It was too sharp. You worry too much, Alpha, he frowned, and you hide too well. The tension between them hung like the charged air before lightning. For a moment he thought she would argue, but instead she sighed and leaned back against the rock, closing her eyes. There's something inside me, Caden. I can't tell where I end, and it begins. He took a slow breath. Then we find a way to draw it out. Her voice was barely a whisper. What if it's not something inside me? He stared at her. What do you mean? Lyra opened her eyes, and for a moment he saw something moving in them. Not just light, shadows, like smoke curling behind glass. I think, she said softly, it's something trying to get out. That night, the forest stirred. Caden woke to the sound of wolves howling, but not in warning or grief. This was something else. A low, pulsing chant of voices rising together, raw and primal. He rose, weapon in hand, and stepped out into the moonlight. The trees shimmered with faint light, veins of red energy pulsing through the bark like blood. The air smelled of iron and wild magic. Lyra, he called. She was standing a few paces away, barefoot, her cloak pooling around her like spilled shadow. Her eyes glowed faintly, and her hands trembled with power. "Caden," she said, her voice distant, layered, like two voices speaking through one mouth. He froze. "Lyra, what's happening?" Her head tilted as though she were listening to something unseen. "The shard," she murmured. "It's calling me." He took a cautious step forward. "Then fight it." Her laugh was soft and wrong. "You don't fight something that is you." The ground beneath her feet cracked. Red light flared through the fissures, spreading outward like veins through the soil. Caden's heart pounded. "Lyra, listen to me. Whatever this is, it's not you. It's what she left behind." Lyra's eyes flickered, for a moment. Gold again. Her voice broke. "I don't know what's real anymore." Then she gasped, clutching her chest. The red glow intensified, swirling around her like a living storm. Caden lunged forward, grabbed her hands, and pain seared through him like lightning. He felt it too now, the pulse, the hunger, the ancient rhythm of the shard echoing through her. He forced himself closer, shouting over the rising hum of magic. "Lyra, listen to me. You're stronger than her, stronger than this." Her voice cracked, somewhere between fury and fear. "Then why does it feel like her?" The earth trembled. From the forest's edge, figures emerged, wolves with eyes the colour of dying embers. Their fur shimmered like smoke, their movements too smooth, too silent. The first of the corrupted. Caden turned, pulling Lyra behind him. "Stay back." The wolves didn't attack. They only stood there, watching, their gaze fixed on Lyra. One of them, a massive black wolf with a scar down its muzzle, stepped forward and bowed its head. Then, in a voice that was both growl and whisper, it spoke. "Mother." Lyra froze. The word hit her like a blade. Caden's eyes widened. "What did it call you?" The wolf lifted its head, eyes glowing crimson. "The flame lives. The shadow returns. The daughter of the Luna rises." The pack echoed it in unison, their voices forming a single pulse of sound that made the trees shake. Lyra stumbled backward, shaking her head violently. "No, no, that's not me." But the wolves only bowed lower. "Mother," they whispered again. Caden stepped in front of her, fury in his voice. "She's not your Luna." The lead wolf's lips curled into something that might have been a smile. "She doesn't have to be. The power chose her." The bond is made. Then the wolves turned all at once and melted back into the forest, their eyes vanishing into the dark. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling. Caden knelt beside her. "They're wrong. You hear me? They're wrong." But she didn't answer. Her gaze was distant, fixed on the glowing cracks in the soil that slowly began to fade. Finally, she whispered, "They weren't wrong about one thing." Caden frowned. "What's that?" Lyra lifted her hand. A flicker of red light sparked in her palm. Not gold, not silver, but the same hue as the Luna's curse. "It is choosing me." Silence. The forest was still again, but something fundamental had shifted, as if the world itself had leaned closer, listening. Caden touched her arm gently. "Then we make a choice too." Lyra looked up at him, eyes bright with tears and fire. "What choice?" He met her gaze. "Whether that power belongs to the Luna or to you." The forest pressed close around them, ancient and watchful, every branch swaying with purpose as if the trees themselves remembered every choice, every loss, every heartbeat of the past. Lyra's fingers brushed against the rough bark, feeling its pulse under her skin. It was alive. It knew her. The scarred trail along her arms throbbed in response faintly, like echoes of something older than time. Caden walked beside her, steady and silent, but she felt his gaze linger, a warmth against the chill of the whispered shadows. Every so often his hand would brush hers, and she could feel the tiny shock of it. The connection deeper than any touch, electric and unspoken. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked, voice low, almost afraid to disturb the air. Caden's eyes followed hers toward the path ahead, where the light bent strangely between the trees. I feel it. The forest. It's holding its breath. And it's watching you. She shivered, both from the cold and from the weight of his words. Watching me. Or testing me. Both, I think, he said, voice soft, intimate. And if it's testing you, I'll be here. I won't leave you. Her heart skipped, and for a moment she wondered if the pulse she felt beneath her skin was her own, or his. The path narrowed, leading them to a hollow where moonlight pooled like liquid silver. The air shimmered with an unseen current. Tiny motes of light hovered just above the ground, dancing to a rhythm only the forest could hear. Lyra's breath caught. It's beautiful. Caden stepped closer, so close that their shoulders brushed. Not as beautiful as you, he whispered. Her eyes flicked to his, and the forest seemed to hush further, as if it, too, had paused to witness the quiet fire between them. She swallowed hard. Focus, Caden. We're here for a reason. And I am, he said, voice low and steady. I'm here for you. The hollow was silent, yet every sound, their steps, their breaths, the faint rustle of leaves, felt amplified, as though the forest itself echoed their presence. Then the whispers began. Soft at first, indistinct, like the sigh of wind through the branches. But they grew clearer, layering one upon another, voices speaking in a language older than any wolf, older than any pack, older than even the Luna herself. Child of the flame, bearer of the scars, chosen of the moon. Lyra's hand went instinctively to her chest, where the warmth of her power hummed like a heartbeat. She faltered, and Caden caught her. You're trembling, he murmured. I feel it, she said, voice tight. It's inside me. Every step we take, it's like the forest is speaking to me. He held her closer, not touching the pulse of power in her chest, but close enough that she could feel his heartbeat in tandem with her own. Then let it speak, he whispered. I'll listen with you. Lyra closed her eyes, and the voices spoke not just to her mind, but to her soul. The fire that burns in darkness, the scars that mark the chosen. She is the one who awakens the shadow. Her breath hitched. The words felt heavy and yet intimate, like a secret shared in the quiet between two hearts. Caden brushed a strand of wet hair from her face. Whatever this prophecy is, we face it together. Lyra opened her eyes and found his gaze holding her, steady and unwavering. A shiver ran through her, anticipation, fear, and a longing she had refused to name. Together, she echoed. The path led them to a stone altar at the heart of the hollow. Its surface was etched with ancient runes, glowing faintly under the silver light. Lyra felt the power thrumming beneath her feet, rising in response to her heartbeat. Caden's hand lingered near hers, though he did not take it. Step carefully, he murmured. This is older than anything we've known. She nodded, each step bringing the whispers louder, now almost a song, mournful, yet compelling, as if calling her to remember something she had forgotten. She laid her hand on the altar. The cold stone bit at her palm, yet beneath it, warmth spread through her veins. The whispers surged. The scars you bear are not marks of shame. They are the key. The flame of your blood will awaken what sleeps. Her eyes met Caden's. What? What if I can't control it? He smiled faintly, brushing his thumb along her knuckles. Then I'll stand beside you. We'll learn together. And for the first time, Lyra felt the fragile, pulsing hope. Like a single spark in the darkest night. The air thickened. The trees leaned closer, light bent, shimmered, and the runes on the altar flared like quiet stars awakening. Lyra's chest burned, her power whispering to her. Not the Luna's, but her own. Her voice was barely audible, trembling with awe. "It's calling me." Caden stepped closer, their shoulders brushing, and whispered, "Then answer." The forest held its breath. Even the moon seemed to tilt its silver gaze toward her. The whispers crescendoed. "She is the flame that walks between worlds, the one who bears the scars. The shadow's awakening begins. She chooses her path." Lyra's hand tightened on the altar, energy humming beneath her fingers, yet she did not rise fully into it. She hesitated, fear and longing intertwined. Fear of what she might become, longing for Caden's hand to reach for hers. He looked at her with unwavering trust, and the air between them pulsed with something unspoken, electric, a promise, a tether, a shared destiny. She breathed deeply, feeling the weight of the prophecy press against her soul. I feel it," she whispered. "The fire, the voice, it's mine. But I'm not ready yet." Caden's hand brushed against hers lightly, a ghost of contact, warm and grounding. "Then you won't face it alone. Not now, not ever." The forest seemed to sigh. The whispers softened, lingering in the air like mist. Lyra's heart raced. The silver light of the moon pooled around the altar, the runes glowing faintly, as if holding their breath for what was to come. And there, in the quiet and the silver light, Lyra felt it, the edge of awakening, the pulse of power waiting just beneath the surface, ready to ignite. She did not step fully into it, not yet. But the prophecy had spoken. The forest had remembered. And Caden's steady presence beside her tethered her to the world she had not yet dared to claim. The air trembled softly. The light shimmered, and the last whisper of the prophecy brushed against her mind. The flame rises, but the true power has yet to walk in the world. Lyra exhaled slowly. Her chest still thrummed with magic, and she looked at Caden. "I'm not ready," she whispered. He nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "Then we wait, and we prepare. Together." The hollow was silent again, except for the soft pulse of her power, a quiet rhythm in the night, and the forest remembered her name. The night was impossibly still. The forest seemed to lean closer, holding its breath. Every leaf, every branch, every whispered shadow waited. Lyra stood at the heart of the hollow, palms pressed against the glowing runes. The pulse beneath her fingers was stronger now, thrumming with a rhythm that matched her own heartbeat, only faster, wilder, untamed. Caden stepped closer, his presence warm against the cold shimmer of the moonlight. He didn't touch her, but the air between them crackled, charged with shared anticipation. "Lyra," he said softly, voice low, intimate, carrying the weight of every moment they had survived together. "You're ready. I can feel it. Don't be afraid." Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Fear, doubt, and longing swirled inside her. She had survived so much, but this, stepping fully into the fire inside her, felt like the first step into a storm she could not outrun. The whispers returned, stronger now, layered like a choir of voices older than the trees themselves. "The scars are not your shame. The flame is not your enemy. She rises." Lyra pressed harder on the altar, closing her eyes. Every fibre of her being thrummed with power. Silver fire crawling beneath her skin, rising through her veins, calling, demanding. I can feel it," she whispered, voice trembling. "It's too much." Caden reached for her hand, just lightly brushing her fingers, and she felt a tether. Solid, real, human. Love and trust grounding her as the world shifted around them. "Then let it guide you," he whispered. "I'm here, every step." Her eyes flew open. The hollow erupted in light. The runes flared, casting silver and crimson patterns across the forest floor. The motes of floating light became fireflies circling her in a living dance. Lyra felt the silver flame rise from her chest, spilling into the world, and the whispers became clear, resonant. "The chosen walks. The scars are fire. The shadow awakens. The daughter of flame will rise. Her knees bent, and the forest itself seemed to pulse beneath her, responding to the rhythm of her power. She was no longer merely a girl with scars. She was the pulse of the prophecy, the living fire that walked between worlds. Caden stayed at her side, but his eyes never left hers. "I see you," he murmured. "All of you. And I'll stand here, as long as you need me." Lyra's chest heaved. The silver fire wrapped around her, flowing along her arms, coiling through her hair, reaching for the sky. Every scar shimmered, not with pain, but with light. Proof of every trial she had survived, every wound that had marked her for greatness. She breathed in deeply, drawing in the forest, the moon, the magic that pulsed through her veins. And then she stepped forward. The ground trembled. The hollow stones shifted as if bowing. The trees leaned further, their branches glowing faintly with veins of silver and red. And Caden's hand found hers fully, firm, grounding, unwavering. "Together?" he asked, voice low, charged. Lyra nodded. "Together." Her power surged, silver flames spilling outward, wrapping the hollow in light. The whispers reached a crescendo. She rises. She is the flame. She is the shadow. She is the prophecy. The world seemed to pause. Then the wind roared, the leaves spun in a cyclone of silver light, and the forest itself exhaled. Lyra felt herself change, her senses sharpened. Every leaf, every pulse of magic, every heartbeat of the forest was hers to feel. The fear ebbed, replaced by clarity, power, and a tether to something deeper than herself. Caden looked at her in awe, eyes wide, chest heaving. "Lyra, you're incredible," she smiled, a mixture of relief, wonder, and longing. "I'm me," she whispered. Finally. And in that moment, the romantic tension that had simmered for hours finally burned through the quiet, unspoken longing. Their hands remained clasped, shoulders brushing, hearts beating in sync. The power inside her was immense, terrifying and beautiful, yet in Caden's presence it felt human, grounded, shared. Then the first ripple of danger arrived, a shadow on the edge of the hollow, faint but unmistakable. The corrupted remnants of the Luna's magic stirred, drawn to her awakening. Lyra inhaled, power thrumming through every scar, every nerve. "They've come," she said softly, voice steady, almost regal now. Caden's hand squeezed hers. "Then we face them, together." The hollow brightened. The moonlight dancing across their faces, Lyra lifted her chin. "No more running, no more hiding. The prophecy walks the earth, and I will lead it," the forest whispered in approval. The runes glowed brighter, and the silver flame that now defined her existence pulsed outward, a heartbeat against the darkness yet to come. Caden drew close, their faces almost touching. "I've waited for you," he said, voice rough with emotion. "Not the power, not the prophecy. You." Lyra's breath hitched, her eyes locking with his. "And I've needed you, more than I knew." The world beyond the hollow felt distant. All that existed was the pulse of the prophecy, her power, and the man who had stood beside her through every shadow. The first wave of the Luna's corrupted force stepped into view. Dark forms moving like liquid shadow. Drawn to her light, Lyra tightened her grip on the altar, her power flaring higher, yet focused. She whispered almost to herself, "Let them come." Caden's lips brushed her hair. "We'll burn brighter." The hollow trembled. The night held its breath. And the first true battle of the prophecy, a test of power, heart, and destiny, was about to begin. The shadows moved like living smoke, coiling through the trees, drawn to Lyra's silver flame. The forest itself seemed to shiver in anticipation, every leaf frozen in midair. every bird silenced. Lyra stood at the center of the hollow, chest burning with power, scars glowing like constellations. The runes beneath her feet pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, steady, commanding, alive. Caden crouched beside her, eyes scanning the darkness. "They're everywhere," he said, voice low but steady, a grounding presence in the storm of magic around them. "They can't touch me," she whispered, almost in awe of the power surging through her. "Not unless I let them." A shadow detached itself from the edge of the hollow, taller than any wolf, its eyes burning with crimson hunger. The corrupted form of the Luna's magic had taken shape, a figure both terrifying and familiar, its voice a rasping echo of all the pain Lyra had endured. "Child of scars, bearer of fire, you cannot command what is mine." Lyra inhaled, and the silver flame around her surged higher. "This is my fire, my power, my choice." Caden's hand found hers, gripping tightly. "Together," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you." She nodded, and the pulse of her power echoed in response, a heartbeat that spread through the hollow. Shaking the earth, vibrating through the trees, the shadow lunged. Lyra moved instinctively, silver fire streaking from her fingertips, a wave of light that forced the darkness back. The corrupted wolf forms hissed and recoiled, but they were relentless, flowing like liquid night toward her. Caden moved beside her, cutting through the nearest shadow with speed born of desperation and love. Every strike, every motion carried the weight of protection, of connection, of the unspoken truth that he would risk everything for her. Lyra felt the fire pulse through her scars, weaving strength into her limbs. She raised her head, silver light flaring like a corona, and for the first time she shouted, not in fear, not in pain, but in power. "This ends now." The hollow lit with blinding silver, so intense that the shadows hissed and screamed, recoiling, scattering across the forest floor. Trees trembled, leaves spun like starlight caught in a whirlwind. Caden moved closer, their shoulders brushing, hearts pounding in sync. "Lyra, you're incredible." "I'm not just incredible," she said, voice steady, luminous with energy. "I'm alive, and I'm not afraid." The corrupted form of the Luna hissed, twisting, reshaping, its power writhing like black smoke. "You cannot defeat me. You are only a child of scars." Lyra's eyes glowed, silver and unyielding. "And you are only a shadow." She stepped forward, letting her flame ripple outward. Every scar on her body burned with light, every wound a symbol of survival, every memory a weapon. The corrupted force faltered, shrieking, unable to withstand the purity of her will and the strength of her bond with Caden. Caden brushed a strand of damp hair from her face, his eyes softening despite the chaos. "I've waited to see you like this," he whispered, voice caught between awe and desire. Lyra's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Then you'd better hold on." The corrupted wolves surged again, faster this time, but Lyra's power flared higher. A wave of silver fire swept through the hollow, separating Caden from danger, cocooning them both in light. For a moment, all was still. The forest exhaled. The hollow glowed like dawn breaking in miniature, every shadow banished by the radiance of her fully realized power. And then the final monstrous form of the Luna's curse stepped forward. A towering figure of darkness, eyes blazing like twin moons of fire. It roared, and the earth shook. Lyra's chest rose and fell with determination. "I am not your sacrifice. I am not your puppet. I am me." Caden's hand pressed to hers, grounding her as the shadows lunged, as the hollow quaked, as the prophecy reached its peak. "Then we end this," he whispered. Together their power intertwined. Her silver flame, his courage and loyalty, the bond that neither time nor pain could sever. The hollow lit brighter than the moon, brighter than the stars, brighter than fear itself. The corrupted force wavered, then shattered, dissolving into nothing but mist. The luna's shadow screamed once, a long, echoing wail that carried through the forest, and then it was gone. Lyra fell to her knees, chest heaving, silver light pulsing softly around her. Caden knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her in a protective embrace. "You did it," he whispered. "You are it. You're everything the prophecy promised." Lyra exhaled, trembling, laughing softly through tears. I couldn't have done it alone." Caden brushed the hair from her face, his forehead resting against hers. "Nor would I ever let you." The forest sighed, settling around them, the runes fading to a soft glow. The night seemed to hum in quiet approval, and even the moon seemed to linger, bathing them in silver light. Lyra lifted her head, looking at Caden, power and vulnerability shining in her eyes. "We're together now, in everything." He smiled, brushing his lips to hers, a kiss gentle but charged with relief, love, and the intimacy born of shared battle and destiny. "Together," he agreed. And in that quiet moment, the prophecy did not just live in the runes or the forest. It lived in them, in the bond they had forged, in the scars and the silver flame, in the love that had survived shadows, pain, and centuries of whispered warnings. The hollow was silent again, but its heartbeat, the pulse of magic, destiny, and love, would never fade. The forest was quiet now, alive but calm, as if it had exhaled after holding its breath for centuries. The trees shimmered faintly in the soft moonlight, and the hollow felt sacred, hallowed by the power that had surged and settled within it. Lyra sank to her knees, silver flame still pulsing faintly along her scars. Each mark glowed softly, no longer a wound but a story, a testament to survival, to pain endured, and to the power she had claimed. Caden knelt beside her, brushing his fingers along her arm. His touch was warm, grounding, a tether to the world she had finally stepped into. "You're more than I ever imagined," he whispered, voice husky with awe and relief. Lyra leaned into him, letting her weight rest against his shoulder. I never thought I'd survive this. Never thought I'd be this." "You were always this," he murmured, lips brushing her temple. "I just helped you see it." The wind stirred, carrying faint whispers, but now they were gentle, approving. "The flame walks. The scars burn with truth. The chosen is whole." Lyra smiled softly, closing her eyes. The forest's magic hummed through her, but it no longer overwhelmed her. It was a part of her, her power, her past, her destiny, all woven together with the man beside her, the one who had stayed through shadows, through pain, through everything. Caden lifted her chin gently, meeting her gaze. His eyes reflected moonlight and something deeper, something like eternity. "We've survived the darkness," he said, "and we've found each other in it. That makes us unstoppable." Lyra laughed softly, a sound of relief and wonder. "Then let's see what comes next. Together." He smiled, leaning closer, their foreheads touching. The air between them thrummed with unspoken promises, and the forest seemed to lean in, bearing witness to the bond forged in fire, in scars, in destiny. The silver light around her faded gently, leaving a soft glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra's scars gleamed faintly in the moonlight, luminous proof that every trial had led her here, to strength, to love, to purpose. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the quiet fill her. And then, softly, the prophetic whispers drifted once more. The flame rises, the chosen walks, the world remembers. Caden brushed a strand of hair from her face, smiling softly. "And we remember too. Every step, every scar, every heartbeat." Lyra opened her eyes and whispered almost to herself, "We've won. But the world, the moon, there's more. I can feel it." He nodded, eyes steady, unwavering. Then we'll face it. Together. Always. The forest settled into perfect silence, the stars mirrored in the calm pond at the hollow's centre. Lyra stood chest full, scars shimmering, power balanced and alive within her. She extended a hand and Caden took it without hesitation. The two of them walked forward through the hollow, shoulders brushing, hearts beating in perfect sync. Behind them, the forest seemed to glow, a subtle approval in the rustle of leaves and the faint shimmer of moonlight on bark. And as they stepped into the soft dawn light, the narrator's voice, haunting, lyrical, almost like a breeze-carrying legend, spoke directly to the listener. Would you have chosen her, or feared her too? She walks among us now, no longer the girl marked by pain, but the flame that burns with every scar she bears. The prophecy is not just hers, it is ours to witness, ours to remember. If this story lit something inside you, subscribe to Olivia Werewolf Tales. Here, every moon holds a secret, every shadow tells a tale, and every flame waits for you to follow it. The forest whispered one last time. The silver light faded into dawn, soft and golden, leaving a memory that lingered in the chest of every listener. But even as the sun rises or the shadows stir, the true Alpha has not yet revealed himself, and the flame will be tested again. And with that, the story ended, leaving the world alive, the prophecy fulfilled, but the mystery lingering, haunting, and impossible to forget.